Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi. Hello, my dolls. Welcome to our Cello Tip Tuesday live stream. It is wonderful to be here. I hope you all are doing well. And I would love to do some exciting housekeeping for you all. Well, not so much housekeeping, but just a really cool announcement. My debut album, Escaping Darkness, is live on most major streaming platforms. And I say most because Spotify takes a little bit longer, so I'm hoping it's there tomorrow or later on today. But of course, I will let you dolls know ASAP when it is available. And you can still find it on iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music, lots of places you can still check it out. So very exciting, and I will do an official big post when it's up on everything, including Spotify. But this has been my baby for about a year at this point, and there have been a lot of learning curves along the way, and I describe it as one of the most stressful yet fulfilling experiences of my career. Self-producing an album, from the recording process to the editing process, everything in between, mixing, mastering. So please check that out. And again, it will be up on Spotify very soon, but you can find it on Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, and other major platforms. So, Escaping Darkness by the Cello Doll. Expect more very soon when it's on Spotify. Okay, so today we are here for the Cello Tips, Cello Tip Tuesday, fresh, back in the practice room after Thanksgiving. For those of you who celebrate, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I know I did. I took a well-deserved break and had lots of amazing food. I hope you did as well. So for those of you who might be new, I do a stream at the end of the month on Tuesdays, and this is to help you in your practice room and your cello learning journey. So any tips you have about practicing cello, any techniques that have been troubling in the practice room or tricky in the practice room, I am here to demonstrate with Chelly. And I can also answer questions you have about the music industry, questions you might have about the album as well, things I have learned about on the way throughout this past year, self-publishing it. So I am excited to see what you have for some questions, technical or music industry wise. So again, hello on YouTube and hello to my dolls on Instagram. I love that we come together at the end of each month. So I'm just gonna check the chats here. Oh, great. Nice. Great first question to launch us off. Do you have any tips for the Popper Etude number 1? Yes, I do. Do I have it handy? Give me a second. Do I have it? Yes, I do. I know it pretty well, but I just want to have a reference with me. So this is an excellent question. For those of you who might not know, the Popper Etudes are a collection. I believe they are 40, yes, 40 etudes. And Popper Etudes from the high school of cello playing, not high school in the grades 9 through 12 sense, but high school as in elevating your technique, a higher level to challenge yourself. So the first etude is in 4/4 with gentle triplets. And I say gentle triplets because that is the way you are going to accomplish this etude well. A lot of times people are tempted to kind of barrel through the first Popper etude. So what I would encourage you to do is to find the note arcs. Step 1. So what I mean by that, this is a little bit of some music analysis. There is a point where the notes, there's this pattern in the first etude of the notes cascading down, and then they start up and cascade down again. And if you just barrel through playing all the notes evenly, it's going to sound like a boring etude. Hello! I see some of my local dolls in Vegas, very excited for a show on Friday. Christmas show, excited the Christmas gigs are coming and the holiday gigs. Yeah, so it's really nice to see local shout outs. Hello! So again, we oftentimes etudes are played kind of like they're an exercise you're just trying to get through. And I know it feels that way when you're practicing it and working on it in your practice time. However, you will really impress people if you can play it musically, like a piece of music. So let's look at these note cascades for a second. So from the top, so you see we go down, up, and then we come down. So I'm going to do just that little bit one more time. So we have two important roles. We have the bass and we have an upper flourish. Okay? Bass cascading, bass cascading, and that is a huge formula for this popper etude. So as you start seeing these patterns, that's step 1. Step 2 is to focus on the bass and to just play the bass. So let me put this somewhere where I can see it better. Pardon me, I'm going to be looking on the floor because y'all don't see the craziness that is in front of me when I stream. So read the part as if you're playing it and just play the bass. You could sing the top part. Da 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 da. Ba 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 ba. Da 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 da. So you see we have a pattern. So the bass happens, the last note of the measure, and the first note of the next measure. So we have the beginning bum, measure, bum, ba, second measure, ba, ba, and find that. Those are your big pillars, and the flourish on top is a decoration. So again, we are getting into the theme of not playing all of our etude notes exactly the same. If I were to play it, why am I singing? I'm a cellist. Well, singing is important, but if it's not an exercise, I'd prefer to demonstrate on cello. I'm a better cellist than a singer. If I were just to play, I mean, yeah, the notes are right and the rhythm's right, but you're gonna be in Snoozeville very soon. It's not very, there's no nuance to it. And I will say, I'm going to be honest with you, dolls, I'm kind of jumping ahead because I want to give you tips that are a little more nuanced because, of course, you need the notes and you need the rhythm. That is absolute. You need that. So, okay, basic first day of the practice room. I would listen very slowly and carefully to my intonation and to get comfortable with the notes. And that is something you should do for any piece, anything you learn. It is very important to understand the fundamentals of the core fundamentals of rhythm, intonation, and the correct notes. I'm trying to kind of jump ahead a little bit and give you unique tips for this specific etude because things like that might not be super apparent right away. I mean, I've gotten so much better at finding hidden bass lines like this in maybe the past 3 to 4 years because of my most recent teacher. So I'm kind of trying to jump ahead and give you all some unique steps. So if anyone out there is going, well, she didn't mention slow practice. I did. Ha! I'm just trying to give you some more unique tips. So I would treat the bass as your foundation and the filler on top is like your decoration. So to help bring that out, think of one color for the bass. Color, dynamic, timbre. Dynamic, timbre, articulation, that's all kind of part of your note's color. So for the bass, I'm trying to, even though they have dots, I'm trying to make them kind of rounder, a little more buoyant, and the pedigree filler on top, a little lighter. Lighter and a little more delicate, so okay, so you have that going on for a while, so I would recommend finding those patterns, and then there are some fun, there's a big bass drop, so I'm gonna play this part. This is a recurring measure. I'm going to talk about kind of 3 major points in this etude. So that was point number 1. Point number 2 is when you have this pattern. Hold on. So it sounds kind of awkward because it is. It's an etude. It's meant to challenge you, and it is awkward. So again, I would focus on the bass because on the top, you're just going. That's not the interesting part, it's the bass. So find out where the tension is. D sharp to E. And I would just toss off the top, not really worrying about it too much. Keep your elbow on the priority, the bass line. Don't do this. Kind of tip the wrist up and down. Keep your elbow cozy. So 4, 3, yes. And keep in mind the A string is very vibrant. So you don't have to, if you brush it, it's gonna come out. And the nice thing about unaccompanied etudes is you can take a little bit of time in certain places like that, kind of like Bach. You need to acknowledge the, what's the term I'm looking for? You have to acknowledge the core rhythm and how to, oh, thank you so much! So my dolls, I don't know if you know this, but on Instagram Live, you can do what's called, you can buy badges for people. And one of my pen pals in Las Vegas, who has been an excellent source of encouragement, just bought a badge. And you can do that kind of as a way to support artists and support people who live stream, not just artists, but any content creator who live streams. So thank you so much for buying that badge. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So going on to this etude again. So that was the second part, is there are these patterns where the bass note is the interesting part and the stuff on top is kind of a filler, and you need to weight the importance. Again, I sound like a broken record, but in this particular etude, it is the bass line. Then we get to some fun, hairy, kind of thumb position stuff when it goes into tenor clef. And this is definitely where the slow practicing is very important for the intonation. One thing that's great about popper etudes, they will show you the whole enchilada of your fingerboard. You are going to get so familiar with your fingerboard map by playing the popper etudes. So important. And so again, this is kind of the middle of the etude, the meat of the etude when you start going into tenor clef. You already start with a, actually right before, you have this cascading figure. And then you go. See, right there, that wasn't in tune. And I'm going to show you how I practice that. Until the destination note, and I prep the elbow. That is so important. If you don't prep the elbow, you are so limited by just your forearm. Lifting the elbow helps you to get up and around the cello. So when you add a slow slide to your practice, your ear will hear, oh, that's the C. Yeah, someone just asked, popper. Yes, we are working on popper etude number 1. Great catch. That's right. So I speed it up. Good. Not too high. And that's the other important thing is just going out of tune. You have to know, are you sharp or are you flat? Because that's gonna determine how you adjust yourself. So you have this pattern of coming down. See, that right there is a whole step, and I want to play a half step between 2 and 3. So you have, again, you have a A string line and a D string line. And you have to know, am I moving a whole step or a half step? And when you have this recurring pattern, you could keep going and going. We call that a sequence. A recurring pattern that follows the same direction and is repeated in segments that go down or up. In this case, we're going down the cello. The segments are getting lower. So take the time to analyze this segment. Analyze this pattern, because if you know the pattern and you know where to start, it's going to feel much more automatic. So bear with me, we're going to go a little slow. So I'm starting on my C. Why did my voice just crack? I'm almost 30 years old. Okay, so we have right there, we have a minor third. And we move a half step. And another minor third. So and then another another half step. Okay? So, half step. And now we have a harmonic and then a whole step bumped over to our A string. So I know we're technically playing a major 6, but the distance between the fingers, because of our multiple strings, is a whole step. And that's another secret, is kind of analyzing the distance as if you were on the same string, right? That's clearly a whole step, but we're on the D string, okay? If anyone has any questions, please tell me. This is a lot. This is a lot for me to explain, and unfortunately, you don't see the sheet music as I do. I'm trying to be as clear as I can. If I'm not, please ask me to repeat something or to elaborate on something. So basically, we reach the point of our pattern or our first sequence. So, scooch it back a half. Scooch it back a half. And guess what? That's the whole pattern. So I'll do it again. We start with that minor third shape. A to C natural. Scooch. That's your half step. So 2 minor thirds, a half step apart. And then your second finger gets to do it. Repeat. Minor third with a scooch. And then you go onward. Let me just find it. You go, sorry, I went a little too far. You do it again, but you start at a higher note. So you kind of have to go through this sequence and do some detective work. Where are the half steps? Where are the whole steps? How am I inching down and up? And you gotta practice the tuning. Again, I am acknowledging I am not currently working on this etude, and I am hearing things that I would do slow work on, especially that yummy double stop. And that's my final tip to you, is to find some double stops you can play. As to this person on YouTube, hi, can I ask questions here? Of course, that is the whole point of our live stream, is for Chelly and I to help you on your practice room journey. So please ask your question on YouTube. Yes, please. So, I would tune your double stops like that. Like that. So I would use, whenever you cross to the D string, I would play that together. So I'm learning, I'm a little too wide. I'm raising my D string voice. And then you go back. stops like that whenever you have adjacent notes. Another badge on Instagram. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Thank you. That is awesome. That really means a lot. Thank you. Thank you so much. Someone wrote on YouTube, my friend actually recommended this awesome channel to me. Well, I am glad you think it's awesome. Thank you. I thought you were talking about my friend Joe. Do you know Joe? He said he knows you personally very well. And then they said, Joe. Okay. I see what you're doing there. I love it when people come on and show their humor. It's very entertaining sometimes. Well, I hope this person is, I thought you were referring to my friend Cello Joe. For those of you who don't know Cello Joe, you need to know who he is. He's an incredible musician, improviser, cello beatboxer. So I'm going to use that as a chance to shout out Cello Joe. Incredible musician, and he is the founder of Cello Madness concert series, which Chelly and I just played in 2 weekends ago. We had a great time. So if you don't know Cello Joe, the beatboxing, improv, cello mastermind, I would highly recommend his content. Another question. Oh, you're way too kind to me. They say, Cello Maestra Dr. Carolyn. Well, it's very kind of you. I don't have my doctorate, but I have a partial doctorate, for those of you who don't know. So I'm part doctor. Do you practice chords often? Don't confuse with double stops, triple stops. What cello chord books do you recommend and why? That is a very good question. So I do practicing chords and double stops. And you say triple stops, but I consider triple stops a chord. Anything more than 2 notes, I consider a chord on cello. And then, of course, we have 4-note chords. So that's a 3-note chord. That's a 4-note chord. And is also the beginning chord of Haydn and C. And then we have chords that begin the Elgar Concerto. So chords are very important. They're very much in our repertoire. And I really think you need a strong foundation of double stops in order to learn chords, because there's often the crucial part of the chord. Because if you think about it, a C major chord that I just did, it's 2 open strings, which hopefully if you tune your cello up correctly, those will be in tune. The crucial part is technically a double stop. And then you just add, and you get a chord. So I actually believe double stops are crucial. If you have a solid double stop foundation, then you will chords will be significantly easier for you. Most of the time, in a lot of chords, you'll have an open string. Now, of course, that's not always true. If we have a D major chord, we have all of our fingers down for all 4 pitches. But I recommend just practicing them as the double stop components. So I have the bottom 2, the middle 2, and then the top 2. And I'm leaning with my hand coming down. I'm not squishing the chord this way. You never, when it comes to left hand technique, you never squish this way. You never squish this way. you pull the string and you lean into it. Squishing is going to cause a lot of tendon problems, a lot of muscle problems that you absolutely don't want. So I think of it as you're pulling the string back, you're leaning kind of back and down to really get into that. And people, you know, that's really important to remember when you're playing chords, because you're having weight on a lot of strings at once, and you might think, oh, I just gotta squeeze. You never squeeze. So I would feel, listen for the intonation. If you don't know how to practice intonation for double stops, I would highly recommend starting it really out of tune, like purposefully out of tune. Sorry, I'm trying to. Into that harmony, you resolve the intonation problem, and that's going to cause your ear to highlight the correct sound much more easier than, I guess it's in tune. You know, so of course I've been playing for a long time, so my ear is adjusted and it's easier for me to hear when I'm not in tune. But it's a great exercise to take a chord, break it down into the double stops, and tune them. So a couple ways you can practice chords. Again, I really think the double stops are really crucial. If you are a beginner, early intermediate cellist, the Rick Mooney double stop books are great. They are what I used when I was growing up playing cello. I think I used them around my third year, maybe, playing. I don't remember. That part is, you know, when I was growing as a cellist, it all kind of blurs together. But yeah, the Rick Mooney double stop books are great. And I really highly recommend them. There actually aren't too many famous double stop or chord building books, which I think is kind of unfortunate. I think it's really unfortunate. So let me just make sure. I don't want to miss anything in the chats. I don't want to miss anything. Okay, good. And I'm getting some wonderful hellos. I don't want to forget to acknowledge those. Hello. It's so wonderful to see people joining us from all around the world. I think that's amazing, and why I love to live stream online, because, you know, I get to reach so many people all around the world. It's incredible. It's kind of unbelievable sometimes. But yeah, I would recommend, oh, someone said you will have to compose a double stop book, the cello, double cellos with cello doll, something. I don't know. But I'm going to give you a couple tips that were helpful for me. And again, if you are familiar with double stop combinations, chords are going to be so much easier. And there's another question. Excellent. And then I'm going to close my segment on chords. I know you said not double stops, but double stops build into your chord. So I would really focus on that foundation, because then you'll be able to recognize how the chord is broken up. Because I already know this is a barred finger, 2 1s playing a perfect fifth. So I know I have a 1 1 3 4. Those are 2 minor sixths. Sorry, wrong. Major 6, minor 6. But I know the hand shapes so well because I know those double stops. So how do you practice double stops? Some of the most common intervals you will have to know are thirds and sixths. So a third, so what I would do is I would pick a key. I would warm up this way for quite a long time, all throughout college. Even now, it's a great way to warm up. I would pick a key. So let's pick an easier one. I'll do C because it kind of has an unconventional start. So if I were to do a C major scale, and I want to do thirds, so C, D, E. Well, I can't really play. Well, let me explain what thirds sound like for those of you who might not know what I'm talking about. C, D, E, C to E, that's a third. And I could keep going up and up. Once you're able to make some of those double stops, check your octave. So that's kind of a beginner way to practice thirds. The other way is, I have to build my way up to here. So this is kind of intermediate advanced. I start with the first third I can do in C major, E to F. Now instead of an open string, I shift. And when I switch strings is when I can do an open string. That one's tricky, that's very uncomfortable. And you notice I'm checking my bass. And then you can add thumb to 2. Or you can alternate thumb 2, 1, 3. That's the final advanced level. Okay? And then you do the same thing with your sixths. So sixths, for C major, C, D, E, F, G, A, C to A. You can start on your open C string because the interval is wider. So there we go. Okay, so I know I'm kind of speeding through something that might be a little complicated or new to some of you, but how I learned to do that is by following my scale and slowly figuring out the intervals. And once you do that work, it becomes so automatic and it's so much easier, I promise. You're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I don't even know what she's doing. I don't even know what she's doing. Someone asked a good question. What about minor thirds, major thirds? Sure. I mean, I did this over C major. You could definitely do it over C minor for those of you who know minor scales. Because those intervals have special tunings, minor thirds, you really gotta make them low to sound in tune. Major thirds are already kind of low as it is, and that's a whole nother topic that you could do a full vlog on. I do have a vlog on intonation where I talk about these intervals on my YouTube channel, but yeah, it can get very complicated, and you just have to start. If you need a sign to practice your intervals and practice your double stops so you can practice your chords, this is your sign to go practice them. Again, the way I started was by my core scale. The scale will be your base. The scale is my base. And as long as you repeat that to yourself, it's going to be very, very helpful. I just want to check one quick thing. Awesome, we are golden, yay. So again, if I'm doing the, let's go back to the sixths. So you could do, your next note is a D, C, D, E, F. I gotta move my first finger up, so the voice on top also moves like a scale. So I'm out of fingers, I'm gonna shift so I can play the D. And then I went to F. My next note is a G. So you could shift early if you'd like. And you always tune to the bass. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have used my open A string. Okay, so I really hope that answers your question. Thirds and sixths. Again, a third, C, D, E. You count up 3 to find a sixth. C, D, E, F, G, A. You count up 6. That is a very basic way, like the quickest way I can explain an interval for those of you who might not know, and that's okay. That's the other thing too. If I'm ever doing a live stream and I say a word that you don't know yet, or you don't, cello doll, I've never heard of an interval. Can you explain interval? That's totally fine. It's not, I mean, you know, we all come from different teachings, different ways of learning, different ways we've been instructed. I mean, thank goodness I took music theory in high school. I had that opportunity because I knew so little about music theory. All throughout high school, I didn't really know much. So it's okay to ask, you know? There was a point where I didn't know what any of these words meant, you know? And I'm always striving to learn more. So don't be embarrassed to ask. All right, so that is my spiel. Again, Rick Mooney, if you are just getting into double stops, it's a fabulous book. I used it. It really gave my hand a workout. So I saw another question about left hand. What is the widest you can stretch your hand when playing tenths? Oh boy. With thumb position and octaves with 1 and 4. I can do a minor 10th from A3 to C5. Oh, excellent. You are using your octave. I'm blanking on the name. For those of you who don't know, the cello has a lot of A's. We have a lot of A's. So this number system they're using tells me what octave it is. So I really appreciate that. A to C5 and an octave at first position on a good day. Sure. The widest you can stretch your hand when playing tenths. So an A3 is our open A string. So have a lot of time to prep it, I could do an A flat to a C, but that is really the best I can do. And you might think that's crazy, but there are pieces where you have to play tenths. But usually, so you see, I'm doing an exercise. I'm going up in half steps. I'm doing that to practice my tenths. You could definitely try that. Don't do it more than 3 to 5 minutes before giving your thumb a break. That's a lot of weight to put on your thumb. And yeah, so it's important. It's seen in very virtuoso concertos having to play tenths. And again, you notice a tenth, we were talking about intervals, counting up 10 notes. You notice this. This looks way more uncomfortable than up here. You notice I'm not doing this. I can be closed. And that's because some of you might not know this, but fun fact, as you go up the cello, the notes get closer and closer together. As you go up the cello, the notes get closer. There's a funny meme online that I really appreciate. It's a picture of a piano, and those of you who know a keyboard, all the keys are the same size. And there's a meme or like a template that says, playing the piano, but you're a string player, and as the keys go up, they get skinnier and skinnier, and at the end of the keyboard, you can barely see the key as it goes higher. And that's kind of what happens with string instruments. But that's why we're able to play tens higher up, because that distance of 10 notes is closer. So here's an extreme example. I'm going to do it so you can really see it. I have a space in between for my half step up here. I have to kind of squeegee my fingers, and they're kind of stepping on each other a little bit to make that half step. So that half step is extremely tight, extremely close together. And then octave. So here's a fun fact. My 1 to 4 is actually very small. I can't reach an octave. If I had to, well, I guess I can. But it's very uncomfortable for me. Here's my little trick. Don't go over, go under. So instead of my wrist coming over, I flip it. And that gives me a little extra room. And again, I support with my elbow. I'm such a broken record with my students when I see this, because you don't understand how much it limits you until you're not limited anymore. It's so limiting to have your elbow droop, because you have to get over this. You have to get over the shoulder of the instrument. So turn your wrist. I don't do it this way. I do it this way. That is what works best for me. But to be honest with you, I always use my thumb and third finger. I always use my thumb and third finger. It's just more comfortable for me. I love thumb position. I love using my thumb. My last teacher, Yehuda Hanani, made a very great challenge to me. He said, you should pretend your thumb is as fluent as the other fingers. You should treat it like any other finger, and you should equally consider it when you're making your fingerings. And that's something that I thought was really interesting, that we don't really think of the thumb like we do 1, 2, 3, and 4. But again, my hand width is a little smaller. Again, I can do 1 to 4 in a pinch, but it's really uncomfortable for me. So I use thumb to 3. And I can say that because I've tried. Sometimes things feel difficult or awkward when they are new. And with practice and figuring out ways to feel more comfortable, a lot of experimenting over here, lowering, swinging, flipping. We rarely flip forward. It's usually, the wrist is usually back. Once you've tried and worked with your teacher, then you can make these decisions. You know, just because you try something once and it might feel awkward, doesn't mean you should give up. Sorry, I get so excited when I see new questions that my brain just lights up. I go, ooh, a new thing. And then I forget what I was saying. But no, with time and experience, you will learn what works for your body and what doesn't. But you have to try. You have to work with your teacher and try different ideas before you can rule something out. Again, I will use 1 to 4 for an octave. If I'm doing something lyrical if I have to. Like if I had to do a vibrato F sharp to a G, I would have to practice it. Then I would do it. But I know for me, thumb to 3 works better. I'm more comfortable and I'm more in tune because I have so much more range. I hope that helps. I think it's very important to talk about things like that. Physical. What's the difference between something feeling awkward and something being a limitation? And it takes time and practice. I mean, for those of you who are intermediate advanced, think about how awkward the bow felt on day 1. How weird is it to hold this? How weird is it to hold the bow? And now, for me, it's like when I pick up a pencil, it's so automatic that I don't think about it. So, when I was younger, I could have been like, my hand's just not made for the bow. I just can't play cello, I guess. It feels weird. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. I quit. You know what I'm saying? Like when something's new and foreign, it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel awkward. And I hope you have an understanding and flexible teacher that wants to work with you. So that's my big spiel about octaves and just, exploring hand angles and hand spans. Okay. Enough yapping. Although that's why you guys are here, is to hear me yap. Just checking the comments. Okay. I'm going to tackle, this is kind of a follow-up question. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Someone said thank you on YouTube, and you are such a great teacher and amazing performer. That's really kind. I really appreciate that so much. Thank you. That's very sweet. Garen Ritter on YouTube. I'm going to save your question for the end because we have a follow-up about double stops. Oh, and someone wrote, you have to persevere if you love it. Put that on a t-shirt or maybe a tattoo for me someday. I don't know, but it's so true. I talk about perseverance all the time. You have to persevere. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, way before I ever came online, and I just persevered. There's so much persevering, but there's so much reward for when you persevere. So I can't say enough how much perseverance is really important. It really is. That's kind of one of my number one core things an artist needs. You need to be able to persevere even when you're tested. Lordy, I know. I hear you. I know. I have been there. We've all been there. Okay, for fourths and sixths, do you prefer to shift every interval or use 1, 3, 2, 4 from half to fourth position or so? Why? Very good question. I like to do both because repertoire involves you to do both. Sometimes you have to so I'm making something up, but there are instances where you have to shift. So you have to be able to hop from the same fingers, but you also have to be able I would recommend though, my first gut was to tell you 1, 3, 2, 4 because people don't practice 2, 4 enough. So I would give a slightly more, well see, it's hard because you need both. You know, I don't want to say something is more valuable than the other, but it's very good pinky training. So if you think you have a weak pinky, which a lot of people do because it's our smallest finger, practice more 1, 3, 2, 4. And then don't forget to also do some 1, 3s. You could alternate every other day. I would do a lot of alternating for scale building and double stop exercises. Sometimes I would do thirds one day, sixths another day. You could do 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. You could do 1, 3, 2, 4. You could do all 2 4s. Just be careful. Be very, listen to your body. If your pinky feels tired, don't push it. But the 1, 3, 2, 4 is great for pinky strength. Okay. Now on to YouTube. When teaching, how often do you have to demonstrate errors and how do you make the message clear? This is a great question. This is about teaching. I demonstrate errors every day. Yes, I demonstrate errors every day because I think we have visual learners, we have oral learners, people that learn by hearing, and we have visual learners. So I think demonstrating covers those bases. Also, demonstrating is very important because all of my students right now I teach online, so I can't go over to them and help to adjust their posture or to you know, fix their fingers. I don't have that by teaching online. So it's a very effective tool for me. And I've seen progress in all of my students, and I'm very proud of how hard they work. So I definitely think you can be productive teaching online. You absolutely can be. There are certain things you can't do, but you know what? It's still a very valuable way to learn, you know? So the other thing too, you know, teaching in person, you know, there might be a lot of distractions, who knows? But if we're in a Zoom meeting, they have to focus because I'm on a screen. Like, they have to really pay attention because, I don't know, I find sometimes people, if something is remote, then again, you know, maybe some people would disagree with me. I don't know. But I don't think it's a really bad way to teach, so I demonstrate a lot. And how do I make the message clear? Well, you have to be, I don't know, I tend to be a nicer teacher. I will be stern when I have to be, but only when I have to be. So instead of saying, well, you're doing this, your bow hand looks weird, and I don't know why your hands are doing this, and when you play, it really sounds like you can't criticize someone for being new. Again, you can't criticize someone for being new. So I will say, you know, I tend to hear that the tone is a little tight, and I think it might be your bow hand. So I want to experiment with the angle of your fingers right now we're seeing this, and I want you to turn them to this. And then I'll have them do that. I'll actually have them take the bow, I'll have them turn their fingers, I'll have them turn, put it on the cello, do the same thing, turn. Often demonstrating away from the instrument helps, because we're taking away factors of confusion. Interacting with an instrument, it's another variable. It can be very confusing. So I like to do a lot of demonstrations away from the instrument. Another thing I do, I preface a lot of my demonstrations by telling them, I am exaggerating. You do not sound like this. I am exaggerating to prove my point. So I really go on the other end, where I will really tilt my hand, or I will really crunch out some gnarly notes. I don't know, just some really crunchy, I will make it a point to not make a good tone, and I will tell them over and over, you don't sound like this. But so I exaggerate. I kind of really make the error obvious. So that's kind of something I do. I find is very helpful, especially when teaching online. And then sometimes I'll do a role reversal. I will tell my student, I'm going to do something, and I want you to tell me what you see. What do you think? Let's say, I'll play like, I'll say, what's wrong? What could I work on? What could I improve? And they'll say, oh, well, your shoulders are very high. Okay, so I find 9 times out of 10, they can usually guess what I'm doing wrong. And so I don't do that. I demonstrate incorrectly as a teaching tool. And here's the thing. Yes, people come to a teacher to improve. People go to a teacher because they have an obstacle or they're not fluent in the instrument. The student knows they are going to be doing things incorrectly. That's why we need a teacher. I mean, you'll need a teacher your whole life. Yes, I'm a professional, but once in a blue moon, I would love to go to a teacher and play for them. So a student knows they're going to a teacher for help. So you need I believe you need to teach them in a way that encourages them to work, that makes them want to work. They know they're going to make mistakes, and they get nervous. I get nervous to make mistakes. So why make a huge point of it? Just demonstrate, help them, give them the chance to be the detective and to correct what I am doing. I think doing that role reversal exercise, I think is really great. It allows the student to realize, wow, I know more than I think I do. That's a huge thing for students. I know more than I think I do. So I think that gives them that chance to realize they are a very capable detective in their practice room. So, my dolls, beautiful questions. Lately, I know it's been a while since I started this live stream series. So maybe you dolls are learning when to expect it more easily. And it's become a regular thing. But for the past half a year or so, you have been bringing the questions. Man, I am so impressed. You have really been bringing some excellent questions. And it also helps me to know what kind of tip videos to make for you all, because I see what you're interested in. And you guys are what make this live stream engaging and fun. And I feel like I get to connect with you all on these platforms. So you are a huge part of Cello Tip Tuesday live stream. So thank you all so much. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Again, if you missed the beginning of my live stream, I did announce my album My debut album, self-produced, self-published, Escaping Darkness by the Cello Doll, is out. It is not available on Spotify yet, but I know it has been sent to Spotify, so it is in the processing stage, but you can currently find it on iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music, those popular streaming platforms, and others. I just know those are some of the most popular. You can find my album, so please check it out. It is something I identify with, and it felt so fulfilling to make something that, oh, thank you for the congrats in the chat. Thank you. It's just so, I feel very lucky that I can make music for you all, and this is something that really resonates with what I want Cello Doll to be. So it's a very meaningful project. It just came out, and I will, stay tuned. Keep track of my socials because I'm posting all of my updates there when it's available on Spotify. I hope it'll be on there really soon because I know it's up on all the others. So go check it out, Escaping Darkness by the Cello Doll. All right, my dolls, happy practicing as always. And yeah, I know I'm so sorry. We are out of time. Someone asked about barred fingerings. Go to my Instagram page. A couple weeks ago, I made a reel about tips for barred fingerings. So check that out. Go to my reels. I talk about barred fingerings, and I really hope I can answer your question. Okay, my dolls. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. I'll be all on there. And then we have another live stream at the end of December. All right, I'll see you soon. Have a great day or night wherever you are, and thanks for joining today. Bye, my dolls.